Hi, I'm Dave from Yoder Smokehouse, and today I'm going to do a review of the Yoder Smokers YS640 Pellet Cooker. This particular version is on a competition cart, but you can get a standard cart as well. I started barbecue cooking in 2013 after going to a barbecue class with Andy Groneman. He came across from the USA. Andy's a grand champion, and the food that I tasted that day was just phenomenal, and it totally changed the way I thought about barbecue. Before then, I used to cook everything on a gas grill, and it used to be things like burnt snags and the normal things that people eat. But this was a revelation to me. So straight after that class, I must admit, I went out and actually bought myself one of these. Never regretted it. I've used it in every competition that I've cooked in, and it's been fantastic so far. There are a lot of pellet grills that are on the market these days. We're very lucky in Australia that most of them are now imported into this country. The reason why I went for the Yoder was purely because of the build quality. When I looked at some of the other models, they admittedly are actually cheaper, but were a lot more flimsy than what the Yoder is. The Yoder is incredibly well built and is incredibly sturdy and uses a lot of thick material. Yoder as well is actually manufactured across in the United States and not manufactured in China, and again that was one of the reasons that swayed me over to the Yoder camp rather than any of the other brands. Pellet cookers use compressed sawdust. The sawdust comes from different types of flavoured wood. It can be from pecan, cherry, apple, sugar maple, oak, lots of different types of flavour woods which add a different flavour on the type of food that you're actually cooking. You may use something like apple on something that's a lot lighter, things like chicken or maybe even fish, whereas things like cherry and pecan you'd be using on brisket. These flavour woods are very subtle, so it's not a full, intense, over smoky flavour, which I find quite offensive at times when I find food over smoked. I find that this is a lot more subtle and a lot more easier to stand for the Australian palate. A pellet grill works by dropping pellets into an auger, which is a big screw. The big screw turns, and as the screw turns, the pellets are dropped into a fire pit. There's an igniter in the bottom of the fire pit, so it sets fire to the actual pellets themselves. Once they go in, there's a fan at the back, blows oxygen through and air through. Temperature probe on the side here, so if you set the temperature to 225 F, then it measures the temperature inside the pit. If it starts to go above there, it slows down the auger, drops less pellets in there. If it goes below that temperature, then it speeds up the auger and drops more pellets in. So it maintains a steady temperature all the way through the cook without you having to do anything. You're not having to adjust any wheels, dampeners or anything. You just basically turn it on, set it to the temperature, and then it takes care of itself with its own electrics. Very simple to use and very easy to use. It is very easy to clean one of these pellet grills. I normally use a shop vac to clean everything out, obviously once it's cooled down. So to take the ash out of the fire pit, then I'll use the shop vac inside there. I then remove the grate, and any ash that's accumulated will be in the bottom of this ash pan. So I just go in there, clean it out with a shop vac, and it's as easy as that to clean. Very, very simple, very easy to use. The Yoder has a variable damper. What this does is actually sets different temperature zones within the pit. So you can have it hotter at one end than at the other end. So as you can see, here's the damper. So if I push that forward, it's keeping the temperature and the heat at this end of the pit. So if you're doing searing on the grill grates, that's a perfect place to actually do that grilling. If you want to use the whole pit, you can move it back to different distances to have different temperatures. But again, you can get 20, 30, 40 degree differences in the temperatures across the whole of the pit and the surface area. So it's a really useful tool to be able to do that. So as your food is cooking, if something's cooking too fast or too slow, you can move it around the grill. Move it from the lower section to the upper section. The closer you go to the chimney, the hotter it gets as well. So the good thing to do when you get one of these grills is to actually put temperature probes in and actually see the temperatures in different places, so you know what the cooking temperatures are, so you can adjust your food to suit. To make the airflow properly, you need to make sure that the chimney is in the right distance. You can adjust the chimney, and as you see, you can actually come right in. What you don't want is you don't want the inside of the chimney past the outside of the pit. So you're trying to push it back in, so it goes in maybe 3 or 4 mil and past the inside surface, and then tighten up. And that's the perfect position to actually get the air to flow properly through the chimney. Obviously, as you can see, as the pellets drop into the fire pit, that causes a lot of direct flame, and you don't want any of that direct flame going onto your food. unless you're doing direct cooking. So if you're doing indirect cooking, you need a heat deflector in there. So this is the heat deflector. I normally put some foil on my heat deflector. That slides in. There's a little lip there where it sits on. Really important, try to make sure it goes in there smooth so that the airflow is going to go properly and works out really well. If you don't have it in there square and straight, then sometimes the heat temperature can really cause a problem and can be up and down in the pit. With a lot of heat within that fire pit, sometimes the actual deflector plate can twist a little bit. One of the tips that I found online to manage that was to get myself a piece of some steel tube, and I just fit that up at the top end, and it makes sure that the deflector plate stays straight and doesn't try to curl up too much. The smoker has 4 grills. These just sit in very simply, slide into place, allowing you to cook and have a decent sized surface area to be able to do briskets, pulled pork or anything else you want to put on there. The YS640 also has an upper shelf, which gives again a lot more area to be able to cook. This slides in, can slide in and out, it's well supported, can move all the way in. So quite often on here I'll cook 2 briskets, I'll have 2 Boston butts on there, and it's quite comfortably can manage that type of workload and that amount of meat at the same time. So the Yoder is all set up now, ready to go for indirect cooking. One of the tips that I'd actually give you is pellets can be quite expensive, and any of the pellet grills can chew through quite a few pellets, and it can cost quite a lot to cook. So what I do whenever I'm turning this on is I will do 2 briskets, 2 lots of pulled pork, try to put as much meat as I can onto there, and then once it's cooked I'll slice it up, put it into vacuum bags, and then put it into the freezer. Really easy to use after that. Once you get it out of the freezer, all you need to do is 25 minutes, 30 minutes in cold water in the sink so it defrosts, put it into bubbling, boiling water in the bag for 10 minutes, and after the 10 minutes is up, you slice it open and it's beautiful. And quite often it tastes better than it did originally when you cooked it. So I think that's a great way to actually get very economical use out of pellet grills. So when you first get your Yoder, one of the most important things to do is to make sure your power is properly attached. Sometimes you'll find that the Yoder doesn't start and there's a problem, and I'll tell you 9 times out of 10 all it is that needs pushing in properly because it's come a little bit loose. So always check that and push that in. At the back here, this is the fan. So what that's doing is as the fire pit is going, this is turning the amount of oxygen that's going into those pellets and making them raw and get hotter, or less air cooling them down. So between the auger and the fan, they vary the amount of heat that's actually going into your smoker and controls that heat flow, and also the control of smoke. So this is the electronic control of the Yoder. This is the fun part. This is the part that makes cooking so easy and so simple. All you need to do is turn on the controller. You can see some of the air blowing out the side here, and then all you need to do is press start to start the cooker, and on there you can see 355 degrees F, and the lines going up means it's starting to lift the temperature up. I can already hear pellets starting to drop into there. Now I can leave it running up to 350 if I wanted to, and it'll get there in 15-20 minutes, or if I'm doing low and slow I can bring that temperature down in 5-degree increments to 225. So down at 225, and it's as easy as that to use. There's also a button here for prime, and what that does is if you've opened the lid and the temperature has dropped down quite a lot, you can put your finger onto the button, press prime, it'll speed up the auger, drop more pellets in and get to temperature quicker, back up to temperature quicker if you want to do that. I don't use that very often, to be truthful, but it is a really good feature if you want to use it. But the real benefit for me is if I'm using an offset or even a Weber or any of those type of things, during the night, if I'm doing a cook that starts at 9 or 10 o'clock at night, I need to be up during the night to actually look after it. With this, I don't need to do anything. I turn it on, set the temperature, put the meat on, and then get up in the morning Normally I'll get up around about 5 o'clock. I just need to make sure the pellets are nice and smooth, because obviously it's like a funnel, so they can go down into a funnel shape. You just need to flatten them off again, and then you're ready to run. So it's very easy to keep going, and it'll run all night for you without you having to do anything. And to me, that's the biggest draw. I want simplicity. When I'm at a competition, I want to be able to sleep during the night, and when I'm at home I want to sleep during the night. So this is really important. These are so easy to use. So the Yoder's now been on the go for about 5 minutes or so, and what you can see is you can actually see thin blue line of smoke coming out of the chimney already, and that's good news. That means everything's working well, and you know that the pellets have caught and are on fire. Obviously after that it doesn't use the igniter, it just keeps it going with the airflow using the fan. But yeah, that's 5 minutes in and you can already see that there's smoke coming out of the chimney, which is great. This is a view from a different angle, and again we're 5 or 6 minutes in and you can see the amount of smoke is coming out, and it's lovely thin blue line. What you just saw was a very successful first off light of the Yoder smoker. Occasionally, sometimes what happens is the ash will still be in around the igniter, and the pellets will sometimes drop onto that ash, and if you haven't cleaned that ash away, the pellets actually don't catch fire. So I always make sure when I start the Yoder off, for the first 5 minutes I check and wait till I see the smoke. Once I see the smoke I know that it's caught and everything's going well. If after 4 or 5 minutes you don't see any smoke coming through, check to see if you can feel any heat. If you're not feeling any heat, then maybe you've not actually set the pellets on fire. The easy way to make sure that there's no problem with that is after every cook, or before you start every cook, is just to move these grills out of the way, lift up the deflector plate, and just make sure that there's no ash caught on top of that igniter. There is a new modification that's out that you can buy separately now, which is a new deflector plate. This deflector plate has a trapdoor in the middle. Absolutely perfect for being able to lift that up and making sure that the ash and everything else is out of the way of the igniter. Also really good for being able to get your shop vac in to actually clean the ashtray out. So perfect for that as well, without having to take everything off. So that's probably a really good modification. I'm about to get one myself. I think it'd be really good value for me to get one, because it'll make that job a lot easier and a lot simpler to do. So when I started the Yoder just then, I did it to show you it's starting up and firing up. I turned it off pretty quickly, and what you can see in there, you can see the pellets. You can see where they've actually started to take light, and that's where the igniter rod is. And you can still see the smoke coming off there as it actually starts to cool down. But that just gives you an idea of what's actually happening in that fire pot. The Yoder pellet cooker can also be used for direct grilling. So you can actually cook steaks on this as well. Typically you can cook steaks at around about 500, just slightly over 500 degrees. The way you do this is you take out the deflector plate, so you can see that it's already been taken out. And then the best thing to do is to buy a couple of modifications, which are these things, which are called grill grates. The grill grates sit over the fire pit, and they take a lot of heat on board from that fire pit. They're made out of aluminium, get incredibly hot and produce fantastic char marks. So you can actually see what they look like on there, and see them in place, and you can put your steaks on there and cook your steaks, and you still get that little bit of flame actually coming up and touching your meat, which is really gives it a nice flavour, gives you that nice coating on the outside. So even though I do most of my cooking on here is mainly low and slow, it can do hot and fast on this grill. However, for me personally, and I'm not the same as everybody else, I like to cook on my Kamado. I can get my Kamado up to 700, 800, 900 degrees, and I prefer to cook my steaks on there. This does a fantastic job, a very admirable job, but one of the things I'm not keen on, I'm a bit OCD, and obviously when you're actually cooking steaks or anything else on here without the deflector plate, all of those fats drip down into the bottom of the grill. Now I don't like having to clean that up. I'm a bit of a bit OCD. I don't like cleaning that up. A lot of people don't mind. I know lots of people who cook every night on the grill grates. I prefer when I'm cooking over charcoal, all of that fat drips onto the charcoal and I've got nothing to clean up. So just from being a lazy point of view, I'd rather actually cook directly over charcoal, but this does a fantastic job, does it really well. You can cook pizzas on here really well at 500 degrees. It does do nice steaks, and these grill grates get absolutely fantastic grill marks on, but there's a little bit more work to do and a little bit more cleaning up. So my preference is to use something else. But if you just want one cooker that can do everything, this can do the whole lot. It can do your pizzas, it can do your low and slow, and it's got plenty of floor space for your low and slow, but it can also grill you a steak as well, or any other type of direct cooking you want to do. So far I've actually shown you how the Yoder YS640 works. Now I'm going to do a bit of a review and tell you what I think about it, the good and the bad. So in terms of the good, for low and slow, I absolutely love the Yoder pellet grill. I think it's incredibly robust, it's very strong, it's well built, well made. More importantly, I can cook meat overnight and don't have to worry about feeding logs or feeding charcoal into a pit or into a kamado. It's very simple to use, so I can set and forget, and to me that's really, really important. I find the flavour that comes off these pits is very mild, so it's not too over smoked. You can't really go wrong, and you can't over smoke your meat, and I think again that's really important. There's been a lot of these have won in competitions across Australia, and obviously lots in the US as well, and that means that the flavour profiles that come off these must be very attractive to the Australian palate. So I'd highly recommend one of these in terms of being able to have a one-off smoker that can do all your low and slow. With regards to hot and fast, it can do a really admirable job. I'm absolutely sure of that. I've tried it and I've been happy with that. Just be aware, you've got a little bit of cleaning up to do that you wouldn't normally do with a kamado. So you've got that cleaning to do, which sort of worries me a little bit, but is not the end of the world. But apart from that, it can do pizzas, and it can do hot and fast. Grill steaks, do snaggers, any of those type of things it can do really, really well. So as long as you know about those things, then I think this is a really good buy. A lot more expensive than some of the other brands that are out there in terms of pellet grills, but I think it's worth it. I think the build of it is really, really good. Also, the support you get from Grill Pro in Australia, Dave Sprigg, is second to none. He really cares about what he actually sells, and so do the people across in Wichita in Kansas where these are made. And again, it's made in America. It's not Chinese built. This is handmade in America and forged in America. So really, really strong, good quality, and a lot of product research goes into it. As I mentioned earlier, the only other thing to bear in mind is the cost of pellets. And pellets are quite expensive, but like I said to you, go into it with your eyes open. If you're prepared to put more than one piece of meat in at a time, if you're prepared to spend $200 and get a vacuum sealer and put your meat into the freezer and then boil it up afterwards, it is fantastic. I do that all the time, and it takes away that expense of just putting one piece of meat on at a time. So I'd highly recommend you to do that if you're going to buy one of these. So I hope you enjoyed my review of the Yoder YS640. Please, if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe on my YouTube channel, but also you can look for me on Facebook, Instagram, and also on www.hectorsmokehouse.com, where I'll be posting a lot of these videos and some instructional videos as well. Thank you for watching.